Morning.
Hi, Wendy. How are you?
How are you?
Office.
Good to see you today.
You too.
Let me first.
You need me to share my screen with you.
Yes,
You
I'm
ready?
going to make you the co-host.
Okay.
So just make sure you can share. Yep, good. All right, so far so good.
So far, so good. We made it this far.
It's always a good start. Yes. Okay, I think we're in good shape. Any last minute questions, concerns?
No, not at all. Just, wait, did you make me look up? Let me just make sure I can advance the slides. Right, I can. Okay.
So we got a couple of people. We should have 65 signed up this morning. You know, whether they all show up or not, we'll find out. But
Right.
so that's a good number, and I'm excited. So do you want me to start letting people in now? Are you okay with that?
Yeah, just one sec. Let me just put in my AirPods that we're doing. So you can't hear my kids in the background getting dressed.
I'm just gonna send a message. I'm sending a message to the waiting room.
Okay, just one sec. Hold on one second. All right, and now.
Okay, so I sent a message to the waiting room, telling them good morning, and we'd admit them in a few minutes.
Okay, I'm gonna reshare with you here just because I lost as I was doing my let me go back to the beginning. I think we should be ready.
Great.
Yes,
Okay.
if you'd like to do that, that's great. And there's only a few people. I would just I'll introduce myself. Say hi.
Okay, sure. Let me get that ready. All good here. Morning, Jordan.
Good morning.
Hi, Jordan.
Good morning. How are you?
You win the prize for the first participant on.
Well, as Sharon would say, I'm not surprised. Morbidly, she'll say I'll be the first person to show up for my own funeral, but
well,
or
good morning
actually,
to
I
you.
usually show up at weddings before the bride and groom. She also says, so
That way you don't miss anything.
Yeah.
You're like me. 5 minutes early is late.
That's exactly it.
Me too. Okay, 3 of us can be together. That's good.
That is good. We make a
Hi,
great
Kelly.
team.
How are you?
Hi, I'm doing great. How are you?
Just wonderful. Thank you for being with us today.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm really honored to be here, to be invited into your community, which I hear is amazing.
Yeah. Like others, I sit on several boards, and over the years I've sat on several boards, but you always want to sit in on these kind of sessions because you always learn something that you never heard before, or a different spin on it. It just reinforces some things because boards are funky.
They sure are. And you know what? I'm just a big believer, myself included, in, continual training, continual education. And I think there's always something new, and especially this year, with circumstances the way that they are, we have really Really a lot of, let's call them quirks. As you said, boards are funky, and wow, this year makes them extra quirky, right? We have a lot of
Yeah.
different
Oh, yeah.
things to accomplish this year. Are you on the Federation board? Is that where you're?
No, I spent like 12 or 13 years on the board of JCC a while
Yep.
ago. I did two
Hmm.
stints with Jewish Family Services. I'm a CPA. I'm actually the auditor for
Hmm.
Federation and all the agencies and a lot of the synagogues.
Wow.
I'm a tax person. I'm an estate and trust person myself, but my audit partner, handles those jobs. And, obviously, we do a lot of presentations to boards. And I'll tell you
Sure.
one,
Yeah.
yeah, I'll tell you
It's a
one
big
funny thing
job.
about being a CPA and being on a board. I don't know if any other CPAs or financial people have told you, but when they ask a CPA to be on the board, the first question out of a lot of their mouths is, "You want to be treasurer?" They just,
They just lump it all in, money.
yeah. So I got
Math.
into that. I got that habit of saying, I'd love to be on your board, but I will not be treasurer.
Right.
And I've also told some boards I will not be on the board unless there's another CPA or
Yep.
accountant on the board.
Yep.
Uh, God bless a lot of board members who are very dedicated to the cause. And they're very involved because, it, whatever the cause is, especially in family service type things. I'll use the
Sure.
JFC for as an example.
Be very complicated,
But they're not financially astute necessarily. And
Sure.
sometimes they're very receptive, and sometimes board members, it's like they just don't get it. And I found I need another accountant there to back me up sometimes.
I do know what you mean, but it's, crucial that you're a resource
Yeah.
there. And,
Yeah.
there's a lot of intricacies in the work that you do. Hi, good morning. Well, that was Ron, but we lost him. We lost his face. There are, especially this year, and with the constant looking at the facts and the figures and the budgets constantly as the situation changes and progresses, can imagine that.
And the boards should be relying on their professional advisors. I can use CPAs as an example because of those payroll protection program loans.
I actually just finished overseeing a couple of mergers, and that was an incredible process. And, working with the lawyers and the accountants, and wow, I have to tell you, it was just so many details and so many T's to cross and I's to dot.
And with the financial crunch and revenue not coming in, smaller agencies are worried, their boards are worried, can they keep their doors open? And like I said, merger in some cases is the only way for survival. And how do you do it? How do two nonprofits merge? Or they have to shut their doors, or what are their other options? They need to be in touch with their lenders, just like any other a nonprofit's a business.
Sure is. It sure is.
So
I think every community is looking at all of those things and looking for redundancies and places where working together makes more sense than doing the same thing in different places. Right.
Yeah.
And some of that work would have been really important to do regardless of the situation. Right.
Absolutely.
And so it sort of allows us the opportunity, or forces us into the opportunity. But some of the things I'm finding should have really been looked at maybe years ago.
You hit the nail on the head. It has forced businesses and nonprofits to leap into the future. From a technology point of view, we are probably, with the remote working and the increase in our technology, we're probably 5 or 10 years ahead of where we would normally be 5 or 10 years from now. It just pushed us into the future. I just did an interview. It's going to be a series with the Delaware Small Business Development Center, and they interviewed me last week, and we talked about these things when businesses and nonprofits are struggling. What are their alternatives? how to identify the problems, where these pre-pandemic problems I was talking about. I put things into silos. Are they pre-pandemic problems, such as not being able to collect, your business model wasn't flexible enough to withstand what's been happening, high employee turnover, or was are the problems pure pandemic induced? You have supply chain was cut off, or your employees can't come in, or you don't have people walking in the door. But if you have these pre-pandemic problems on top of the pandemic problems, you're in a world of hurt. And
Sure.
and what do we do? How do we cash flow? How do we re-gear our budget? What are the alternatives? Do you budget for only 3 months down the line, or should you be budgeting and looking at 6 and 9 months down the line as well under these conditions? So
Yep.
yeah.
Good morning. Good morning, Seth.
Morning. How are you?
I'm just talking with Jordan about accounting.
I know,
Budgets.
I know that's boring, Seth.
No, it is not.
None of it's boring. None of it's boring. Good morning. I see is that Harriet Ann? Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning, Joan. Good morning, Jeff.
Good morning.
Lisa. Hi, good morning.
Hi.
Hi, Wendy.
Hi, Suzanne.
Hello. Nice to meet you.
I'm renaming our thing Richard and Harriet Ann.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Morning.
Beth, I'm hoping you got a few days of rest.
I actually did. It was nice. Got away for a week.
I'm thrilled to hear it. I'm thrilled to hear it. You need it. We're gearing up for a big year, huh?
We are.
Fill those energy reserves. Good morning, everyone. Such a nice turnout today.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You guys all had coffee? You ready for this?
Yeah.
Good idea.
I know, we're raring to go.
Definitely so.
We're raring to go. I mean, come on. I had to do that like hours ago. I had to get primed. Good morning, Alan.
Morning.
Morning, Sherry. Oh, there's
Good
Richard.
morning.
Yep, Richard.
Good morning.
And we've got the gang there. Hi, Michael. Morning, Brent.
Morning. Morning.
Happy to see you all. Morning, Max.
Good morning. Everybody looks great.
You were up late.
Morning, Robin. Morning, Alan.
Morning. This was almost more difficult than an in-person meeting. Tonight,
Why is that?
because you think you have enough time,
Oh,
It
then it evaporates.
evaporates. That's the story of my life. Good morning, Felicia.
Well, it is better than getting caught at a traffic light.
It's
Oh,
so
yeah.
true, right? We could be sitting in a completely frustrating traffic jam, especially where I am in Boston. I'm kind of happy to be here. I'd rather be there in person, to tell you the truth. I'd rather be there in person.
There's a place-
Although I have had Zoom meetings where some participants were in fact at traffic lights and caught at traffic.
Well, that's another way to do it. That sounds dangerous.
Well, they mounted their cell phone.
Yeah, still. I'm not sure multitasking like that would be super beneficial to my driving, but that's another story. Morning, Beth. Morning, Lori.
Morning.
I'm very disappointed this morning because I just moved and we had lived right next to Brandywine High School.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I've been
Yeah.
up close and personal last night.
Yeah.
Hey, Max, where did you move to?
Just an old people's home, the village of Brandywine, 202.
You're a young buck.
Yeah, you don't seem ready for that.
Tell that to my lack of hair. Yes.
It's
Must
just
be
been a while to figure out why we
Good
have
morning,
all those-
Lydia.
Yeah. Well, my office is a half mile from Joe's home. So,
Oh, that's great.
yeah, can't wait with all those SUVs blocking the roads some
Sure.
morning or things like that. We'll see.
Yeah, you guys are pretty famous. I guess Delaware's the place to be this morning. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah,
It is. It's
I do
always
wish I was there in person, but
you're really missing out, Kelly.
I really am missing out. I mean,
Now we
I was
can go out
there.
of our houses and see it. That would be even better.
I mean, right? Can you guys, hopefully when this thing ends, I'm really going to expect an invitation over,
You're invited.
Absolutely. Okay. How many people we have? Oh, 43 already. Wow.
Yeah. Hello.
Good morning.
Okay, we're gonna wait 30 more seconds and then we're gonna get started and we'll probably have some other people join us.
Morning, Russ. Morning, Rachel.
Okay, Kelly, you ready?
I am as ready as I will ever be.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for getting up early and going to your home offices to participate in our 2020 Community Leadership Workshop. We're very, very happy that we're able to do this in such a unprecedented and different year that we're experiencing this year. And we are absolutely thrilled that we have been able to utilize the services of Kelly Siegel, who's joining us today, and she'll be with us for the next 2 sessions on the next consecutive Wednesdays as well. So some of you will be joining us for all 3 sessions. Some of you have chosen to come in for this session and 1 or 2 other sessions. That's great. We wanted to make it flexible and wanted you to be able to choose which sessions were most meaningful for you. And I didn't say this at the beginning, but in case anyone doesn't know me, I'm Wendy Berger. I'm the Senior Vice President of Financial Resource Development at Federation. I would be remiss, speaking of Delaware, for those who were in that conversation earlier, this workshop has been generously underwritten by the Beau Biden Leadership Fund. So we're very grateful to have that. If you could all mute yourselves so we don't have any background feedback or noise. There will be a question and answer session at the end. There'll be some opportunities for participation via the chat, which Kelly will tell you about during the presentation. And Seth and I will be monitoring the chat. So if there are questions, we will be sure to call on you and make sure that your questions get answered. We are absolutely delighted to have Kelly with us today. Kelly is a management, communications, and funding strategist with more than 25 years of experience elevating performance in mission-driven organizations. She's worked in community federations, institutions of higher learning, social justice nonprofits, educational alliances, and political advocacy organizations. She has experience working in the trenches, just like we're doing, alongside professionals and other lay leaders to design comprehensive plans for strength maintenance and impact maximizing growth. Her work is predicated on strategies that are results driven from start to finish. And I know that we all need that, especially now when we are all working so hard for our various organizations, nonprofits, and synagogues. In 2010, Kelly launched her nonprofit management firm, Kelly Siegel Consulting, and she has worked with many, many organizations. She was describing at the beginning this morning when some of you were joining that she has recently been helping some organizations with mergers. She's helped with leadership, with board management, with strategizing, and many, many other topics that are relevant to all of us. And we are absolutely thrilled to have Kelly with us. Kelly graduated summa cum laude from Brandeis University. I know at least a couple other people on the Zoom are also Brandeis alum. She was born and raised in my hometown of Denver, Colorado, and she currently lives in Wellesley, Massachusetts with her husband and 2 sons. It is now my extreme honor and pleasure to welcome Kelly Siegel.
Thank you so much, Wendy, and thank you for having me, Seth, Wendy, for inviting me into your community. I said this earlier today, but I wish I was there in person. But this is where we are, and I'm thrilled to be here. I just want to start off by saying there's no need to take notes. We're going to send you a PDF of this entire deck so you can have it as a resource if you'd like it. So just, sit back and listen, participate, think of questions. I'll really want to hear from as many of you as I can a little bit later on. Today's first of 3 training sessions is board member roles and responsibilities, leading your organization successfully in unprecedented, there I said it, but it's true, unprecedented times. I'm really, really, really happy to be giving this training as I am throughout the next couple of months, because your presence, your participation, your leadership is absolutely crucial to the outcomes of your organization this year. So I want to just dive in, but before I do, I'm just wondering if you all could answer a poll question for me so I can get a sense. How long have you been a board member in the Jewish community in Delaware? It's not necessarily the board you're on now, but just a board member in your community in Delaware. Just want to see.
So everyone can go ahead and type that in the chat.
Oh, in the chat. Okay.
Yes.
Oh, please put that in the chat. Yes.
So
Okay, we have everything. Yeah.
20 years,
yeah.
1 year, 15 years, brand new, 10
Oh,
years.
I can see this really runs the gamut. This is actually fantastic. So for some of you, this will all be new, but for all of you, much of this will be new because of the impact of COVID, because of external circumstances. So there's a lot for us to really dig into that really may not be just the same old stuff. And I hope that's the case, even though I'm sorry that it's not the same old stuff and that we are dealing with these unprecedented external factors. So let's talk about the goals for today. We're going to start off strong with Zoom board meeting etiquette, which is super important to boards this year, considering they're all on Zoom. We're then going to move into official roles and responsibilities of board members. And lastly, we're going to talk about ways to enhance leadership in uncertain times. You're gonna hear me say that quite a bit, although I try to, you know, switch out my terms a little so we are not always saying unprecedented. So why Zoom can blow up board meeting behavior? So what I've noticed from the boards I've been working with and the boards that I'm on is that when everything moved virtual, the chemistry really changed. And the work that we had to do was often far less productive than it had been when we were in person. And I had to sit back and think about why this was happening. And I kind of came up with 3 reasons. The first is that when we are virtual, I call it the wrapper's removed. And that's where that boundary, that insulation that we have, where we can read someone else's body language when they are sitting across the table from us or down the table from us, just in the same room, we can feel their presence. We can't really pick up those same signals when we are virtual over Zoom. So I think that sometimes that enables all of us to say things or behave in ways that are less productive to the issue at hand, and kind of the meeting doesn't go as well or as smoothly as it could. The other reason is that we've got that leave meeting syndrome, right? All we have to do right now, if you get bored with me, you just hit leave meeting. We just push a button. All the rituals around the board meeting are removed. We used to walk in together, we used to schmooze, we used to sit around a table, we used to break for a part of cookies and coffee, and then we'd kind of hang out at the end and maybe give each other a ride home. All of that is gone, right? All of our rituals are gone. And so this, I think, can be a catalyst for us to maybe say things in ways that we wouldn't normally feel comfortable. Because it's like, we read someone and we think, I'm thinking this, but I'm gonna really consider how I'm saying it because I might run into them in the bathroom. That is not happening now, right? We have this just sort of way of exiting, getting out quick. And, you know, the third reason is I think we all are experiencing a tremendous number of frustrations, right? Whether that's, you know, feeling isolated, we haven't seen our families, we're homeschooling our kids. All of those things are really piling up as this situation is prolonged. And, you know, I think that we get into our board meeting and this is our community and this is our safe space. And that's a great thing, but maybe we sort of let it all hang out a little more than we should, meaning, you know, we say things in a way that, again, we may not in person, right? And so I think these are the reasons that Zoom can really blow up what is productive board meeting behavior. All of this reminded me of a favorite quote I have from activist Audre Lorde. She says, sometimes we are blessed with being able to choose the time and the arena and the manner of our revolution. But more usually, we must do battle where we are standing. In this situation, the word revolution feels a little heavy-handed, and far be it from me to change Audre Lorde's words, but what I will say is that I'd like to take off that R and just say evolution. So sometimes we're blessed with being able to choose the time and the arena and the manner of our evolution. But more usually, we must do battle where we are standing. This is where we are standing, in our own homes, behind these screens. This is where we have to accomplish the very important work that we have to do this year. So let's talk about what best practices are for Zoom board meetings. The first ones I'm going to mention are a little more logistical. All right, so most of you know this, but mute your microphone and be mindful of background noise. Even if you think we can't hear your dishwasher running, we totally can. Zoom picks up everything. So it's so helpful to mute your microphone. Bullets 2 and 3 really go together. I was reading a really funny story about someone before the pandemic hit who had to show up for a board vote. It was also like Game 7 of the World Series, and he was super psyched because he thought to himself, I'm going to be able to be at this board meeting and watch Game 7 on my TV right up there. Well, it was a disaster. I mean, kind of a long story, but the bottom line is you can't do 2 things at once. Like, I can see those of you right now who are checking Facebook. You think I can't, but I can. I'm just kidding, really. I don't really think you're checking Facebook, but the point is that people can tell when you're not present. As much as you can, please follow your facilitator's rules about how you participate. You know, if you are to physically raise your hand or use the chat function or the hand raising function, please do that. There is that kind of tendency in Zoom where two people start talking and it gets, you know, kind of this weird feeling kind of happens. So we really want to make sure that we're speaking one at a time. The next list is, you know, to really come prepared. Read, bring, know, and do. Our bandwidth for Zoom meetings is really about half an hour, although I really don't know a board meeting that can only last half an hour, even on Zoom. So all the more important that you come prepared, you've read the materials, you've written out your questions, you've decided, you know, what you want to cover for yourself, what you want to learn in that meeting. Listen to everyone, even if you disagree, right? This is where it's really important that you show up, but it's not just that you show up, it's how you show up. Say it once and stop talking. We don't have a lot of time. Bandwidth is short. We don't need to say it more than once. I think it's sometimes feels helpful to us to do that, but it isn't when we are virtual. Disagree without being disagreeable goes without saying. Myself included, we need to be on our best behavior. We need to be overly sensitive. There's a lot on everyone's plate right now, and the way that we say things matters. Leadership lives in language, and this is really where we want to check our communication. And lastly, just allow your ideas to be parked. Don't take offense if there isn't time to cover it. You can always have an offline conversation if need be. So all of these best practices for me filter into sort of three main things. Number one, be fully engaged. Number two, be prepared. And number three, do your best to stay in the moment. It is very hard. It is distracting to have our computers right in front of us, our phones. Put them away. It's the way that we're going to get most done. And really just remember that we are all volunteers, okay? We've got to double down on the etiquette here. We're all here for the same reason, to support and further the mission of our organizations. And so, you know, just think to yourself, like, double down on that etiquette. It really matters. I'm going to kind of walk into the roles and responsibilities now, and these are the legal duties. These are the same regardless of circumstances, regardless of which board you sit on. It is the duty of loyalty, the duty of care, and the duty of obedience. So the duty of loyalty is really where board members are required to put the interests of the organization before any personal or professional concerns. You must avoid conflicts of interest. Hopefully, everyone on this call has been asked by your organization to disclose any conflicts that may preclude you from participating. That's a really important thing to do. If you are a board chair, maybe take note that that's something you want to look at. It also is, the confidentiality situation fits into this duty of loyalty. We really do have to be careful of this. I know what it's like to sit on the phone with a friend and think, I can help, you know, I should just try to kind of talk these things out with people who I know can help. But confidentiality is very, very important when you're sitting on a board. It can hurt the organization immensely if you share too much of what goes on during board meetings. The next is duty of care. This is really about actively participating in planning, decision-making. It's about showing up and being present, as we've talked about. It's also, you know, if an organization is entering into any kind of special initiative, or, you know, let's say buying or selling significant assets, it is your responsibility as a board member to make the decision of seeking outside, qualified, independent advice. If you have expertise on the board, that's terrific. But if you don't, you do need to make sure and ensure that your organization is seeking outside advice. So duty of care, think of it as really just showing up and being present. Duty of obedience. This couldn't be easier. Can't break the law. All right. Board members, you have to make sure that your organization complies with all federal, states, and local laws and regulations. This is especially important right now during COVID because there are different compliance issues around this situation all the time. Whether it's the number of people who can gather or that you must be wearing masks, whatever it is, you want to make sure that your organization is following guidelines that are mandated by your state. Okay, so those are the three legal components of board service. Then there are 8 primary roles and responsibilities of board members. All right, the first is to determine and understand the vision, the mission, and the values, determine strategic direction, evaluate, support, select the executive, financial oversight. Jordan and I were talking about that earlier, ensuring adequate financial resources, approve and monitor programs, enhance the organization's public standing, and build and maintain an engaged and competent board. This last one is really a separate training, so we're just going to mention it here and I'm not going to go into it in depth. And before I kind of flesh out some of these, I just want to interject that being a board member is not innate. So we need to learn all of these things because the work of our organizations matter, and we're entrusted by the state to oversee the integrity of these valued community institutions. But don't feel self-conscious if these are things that you need to learn or relearn. Again, it's not innate. All right, let's talk about determining strategic direction and measuring progress. So many organizations have actually determined that their strategic plan is invalid at this point, given external circumstances, given the pandemic. So we have a whole new job, right? There is debating and weighing in on strategic issues, understanding what the previous strategic plan was, establishing new yearly goals or seeing which ones can be preserved. How are you going to measure those goals? What are the performance indicators? Needing to really measure progress. This is the last one that I've highlighted here. The ones that I've highlighted are really about this year in particular. So evaluating changes in the environment and reassessing strategic priorities for your organization. COVID is a fluid situation, and so our strategic priorities often do also need to be fluid, meaning we have to check in on them regularly, we have to make adjustments regularly, and this is something very different this year. We are not following our regular plan necessarily. Okay, the next is to select, evaluate, and support the executive. So you know that it is a board's responsibility to hire an executive, to establish goals for your executive, and to evaluate your executive at least annually. But I really want to talk about what right now our executives need from us as board members. The board needs to provide additional support, guidance, and I am going to say appreciation to the executive. We have no idea what is on the plates of the individuals running our organizations in our community right now. It is absolutely unbelievable. Not only are they dealing with the situations at work and having to retrain their staff, redirect their staff, work virtually, they've also got the same things going on at home that we do. So I kind of like to say to boards right now, think before you call your executive director. What are you adding to their plate? Are you supporting? Are you helping triage? Or are you sort of frustrated and complaining? And I know that there is frustration, but I think right now we really want to check ourselves and be as supportive to our executives as possible. We don't want to lose them. We don't want them to burn out. This is a marathon and not a sprint, and we need them to be able to lead. And we want to enable them to lead. Lastly, we've got to ask ourselves, do you have an emergency succession plan? All right, a succession plan is someone who takes over should the executive director have to step away from their role for any reason. And there should always be a succession plan, but especially in the time of a pandemic, we need to make sure that we know if anything goes awry, if our executive has to be out, who leads, what is the plan? If you have a succession plan, that's terrific. If you don't, I have materials that I can send you after this. I can send through Wendy to help guide you through creating a succession plan. You also need a succession plan for your board chair, but that's kind of a trick question because what is the succession plan for your board chair? It's your vice chair or, you know, some combination thereof, but that's how that piece works, right? So, you know, thinking about succession plans right now is a very, very big deal. And you want to make sure that your organization has one for certain. Actually, could I just check in? Would you just, I'm really just curious, would you put in the chat box whether or not your organization does have a succession plan? Yes, sort of. Actually, there's, okay, I see it, but what I'm really happy to see is there's a surprising number of yeses. Okay, there's certain special circumstances as well. Okay, thank you very much. All right, the next responsibility that we are going to look at is financial oversight. So, you know what, this is all about money, right? It's all about the yearly budget, and we have to keep a very careful eye on the annual budget this year. It probably needs to be closely monitored and adjusted throughout the year, given external circumstances. Your organization should really engage in scenario planning. You know, what will we do if our budget looks like this? What will we do if it looks like this? And what will we do if it looks like this? And that way you are ready for anything. All right, you as a board member, you just want to, you know, make sure that the appropriate financial controls are in place. You know, not everybody is a finance person, but basically what you want to be sure that you're aware of is where the unknowns are, who is in charge, who has oversight, how often the financials are looked at. And that's really important for risk management oversight here. And that's really what we're dealing with the financials. So let me give you an example of risk management oversight. Most boards before the pandemic did not really understand what their insurance policies covered. They weren't sure if any of what was going on was covered in their policy. Did they, you know, what did their policy say? When was the last time they really looked into that? So that's something now that we need to look at in order to be really managing risk. And maybe that'll require a task force and a deep look into what your insurance policy covers. Does it need to be updated? Things like that. So we're looking to manage risk everywhere that we can. All right. Ensuring adequate financial resources, my favorite topic, which is really fundraising. So on every board, we have people who say, I am here to do this, but I'm not a fundraiser. Understood. But, you know, in ways, whatever duty you're performing, you are assisting with fundraising, and we need extra involvement this year. I know you can say, well, that's not what I signed up for. Guys, none of us signed up for this. I did not sign up to give trainings over Zoom. I did not do it. Do I love it? Like, no, I'd rather be there. I get energy that way. But we all need to do battle where we're standing, and we need extra involvement in fundraising, and everyone needs to participate. And there are ways to do that that aren't, you know, necessarily the direct ask. Help determine fundraising goals, develop, approve that fundraising plan, and be ready to adjust it as needed. You know, I know you, a lot of places in your community, the Federation especially, went through an emergency fundraising for COVID. And, you know, that's going to have to happen. How can you help with that? How can you prospect, cultivate, steward? All of that is fundraising. If you aren't able or you don't feel comfortable and confident making the ask yourself, what can you do? And Be sure that you help plan, support, attend all events, show up. Even just showing up is really, really helpful when it comes to, the financial resource situation of your organization. Bring people with you. Have conversations. Steward, call to say thank you. Call your professionals and say, who's made a gift this week? Who can I call? Who can I thank? Who can I update? And really, most importantly, please make your annual gift in accordance with your board giving policy. Make it early so that that part of your budget can be, actualized early on, and there aren't a lot of question marks, especially around board giving. You are leadership, so let's start there and really start with early board giving if it's possible. Programmatically, apart from the finances, we're wanting to ensure that programs further the mission. This does not mean program design. It is the professional staff of an organization that's really most involved in program design, unless they call for outside help. But, this is really about mission fulfillment. Are the programs your organization is carrying out, is it mission fulfillment right now? The hardest thing for any board to do is to sunset a program that has been a tradition, that has been, kind of a pillar of the organization. But right now, if you can't really do it, it's got to be put aside. That doesn't mean forever, or maybe it comes back in a different way, or it changes now, but this is when difficult decisions have to be made, and your organization is counting on you to sort of, be able to put your emotional attachment to certain programs and initiatives aside, and to help, understand the financial constraints of the organization, and are those programs serving the mission and helping with impact at this time. All right, enhancing the organization's public standing. All right, so this is all about being ambassadors, and this is fundraising also. Said it before, attend events, even virtual ones. They may feel less exciting to you than it did in person. There may be less, elbow greasing and whatever it is, but be there. Be there this year for your organization. Attend and invite others to join you. Know your story. Stay current on the communication, stay current on the story of your organization, and have talking points for yourself. When you can spontaneously have a conversation with people who you come into contact with about your organization, be ready. Have a small story bank for yourself. In this situation, I want to talk about this. I want to share about this. I want to talk about our COVID emergency fund that was, such an incredible effort in, fundraising and execution. Share those organizational stories. Be ambassadors and champions in the community, in person, online. I told you, I could see you on Facebook. I can see you scrolling through Instagram. Well, right there, it's a perfect place to do it. Highlight your organization and its programs on your social media. Look for opportunities to do this. We are all people, actually all of us, we're all on social media a lot right now because we're home more than we used to be. We have more time on our hands. And, if you can put stuff out there that helps people raise awareness for the organization, it's super important, especially if your organization is not in the headlines because of COVID. So if you are not a social action organization and it's not a natural fit and it's not necessarily COVID relevant, you really want to talk yourselves up where appropriate. You really want to share what you're doing. We're no longer in that necessarily that emergency crisis state where it's not appropriate to talk about other things. So if it's not a natural headline, let's really get out there. Let's really talk about what we're doing and how we're building community and how we're impacting. People want to hear it, actually. They want to hear what's going on. They want to hear what else is new. I want to ask you all a question, because organizations are getting really innovative when it comes to how they are showcasing themselves through their leadership. what have you been doing differently at your organization? Or what are some of the things, what's something you've seen being done to champion the organization, your organization in this new reality? Can we share some of that together in either in the chat box, or Wendy, you can decide if you want to have people just, you know, raise their hands and share a little bit.
So we're reading the chat. We have Facebook chats, improved collaboration, personal calls to our membership, virtual mission to Israel. Give
Oh my
back,
gosh, I love that. That is amazing.
more frequent meetings to keep in touch.
Right. So much innovation happening. There's an arts organization here in Boston that I work with that is doing a, you know, sort of virtual dinner parties, and they're, you know, sending meals from an Israeli, really outstanding Israeli chef to 10 people that would, let's say, normally sit around a table, and then they're all eating together and taking a virtual tour of the, you know, Jewish section of the Museum of Fine Arts. I mean, so much innovation. There's so much room for creativity right now that it's really kind of mind-blowing how we are filling these holes of being able to be together in person.
Someone also mentioned town
yeah.
halls for
Great.
Hillel at University of Delaware, which is virtual, with parents and students. A lot of increased virtual programming is being done.
That's great. What I've also found is that people say, oh, you know, the virtual programming, that's too bad. What I found actually, though, is that we can, in certain ways, reach groups that we weren't able to reach in person. They couldn't get there because of the commute. Our reach is wider, right? We can get further out from where our central programming places used to be. We've gotten much more inclusive of the elderly or people who are at home for certain reasons. And I have to be honest with you, I have really seen bottom lines be higher at this point this year than they have been in previous years because of this. Not everyone, but certain organizations doing this well and doing this right are benefiting from it for certain. Thank you for sharing that. All right. Guys, no rest for the weary, all right? This situation is going on for an indefinite period of time. I mean, it pains me to say it, all right? So we can't let up. So these are action items. It's getting comfortable with online meeting technology. It's assessing whether your management is taking appropriate steps to really fulfill the mission, enhance the mission, the culture, the reputation. It's attending meetings beyond regular board meetings. You may have more board meetings. If you used to meet once a month, you may need to meet twice a month because, you know, the situation is so fluid that things can be totally different in the environment in which we're operating in 1 month. Support your executive and staff. Be prepared to pay your pledge, increase a gift, contribute to supplemental giving opportunities, which I know so many of you have with your emergency funds. Serve on ad hoc committees or task forces in addition to regular committees. I mean, I know so many of you really want to look into your organization's insurance policy. I know that sounds so exciting. So maybe volunteer to do that. I know it's not super exciting, but it's necessary, and we really need to do these things. And as I was speaking to somebody about earlier, these are things that needed to happen. I actually call this deferred maintenance. These aren't things that should have happened because we are in a pandemic. We should have already known these things, right? But we didn't, and that's fine because this is the accelerant. The pandemic is the accelerant for really, you know, crossing some T's and dotting some I's and figuring out what we have and how it serves us. So, you know, it's an opportunity as well. We just need extra help. And I know, you know, a lot of you are going to say, and I feel this way too, there's so much on our plates. There's so much that we're managing at home. Like, when did all of a sudden I become a homeschooler? I don't know how that happened, but it's happening, right? It is definitely happening in my house. So those of you who have a little more time, who are able to, if you can step in here and kind of supplement, that's really terrific. Show up where you can, how you can, for extra things. That is really helpful and really reinforces the infrastructure of these organizations right now. I just want to take a pause because this is a lot. As I put these trainings together, I realized that the board roles and responsibilities, it's a lot. All right. And I just want you personally to look at these things and reflect and ask yourself, which of these seem more challenging? You know, look at these and ask yourself, where do you feel like you could possibly use more training? It's okay. If you think you need more training or if you'd like more training, here's what you can do. Ask a fellow board member who you know has expertise to walk you through certain materials. If you're struggling with the budget, if you're struggling with the fundraising plan, there are people on the board that I know would be willing to lend a hand. Ask a professional at the organization to work with you on any particular area. Everybody's plate is full, but they would much rather have you have a complete understanding than sit in board meetings with your materials and not really understand them. There is no shame in that. None of this is, you know, natural unless you're a CPA, right? We talked about that. You know, unless you are a whiz at budgets or you're a fundraising executive, none of it is really innate. And so really, let's come out of the closet with that and get the help where we need it. Also, I am happy to speak to anyone who is having trouble understanding something. Go onto my website, email me, call me. I'll always pick up the phone, leave me a message. I'll talk you through anything. I want you to understand. It helps our organization move forward with limited bandwidth when you do. And I couldn't be happier to help. And all of my colleagues who are consultants, who are collaborating, we are all very happy to donate our time in this way. So don't hesitate, and I mean that. So really look at this list and say to yourself, I need a little support. I need to understand this better. And let's find a solution for that. So for all of my board chairs on the call, I'm not going to spend time on this. I just want you to know that it's included. This is sort of what some of the things that you need to think about, especially during uncertain times, right? You need to really think about your communication. You need to think about the frequency of your meetings. This is something that if you are a board chair, feel free to call me, honestly, and we can talk through during uncertain times what are best practices, but I just wanted to include this in here as a resource. How did this happen? We're already at takeaways. Okay, so let's talk about what we covered in all of this information, all right? I want you to take away that we need to up productivity by abiding by Zoom ground rules for more productive board meetings. Remember, we need you to show up. That was the first thing. But then it's not only that you show up, it's how you show up. And we really want to consider our wrapper is off. We're all frustrated. We don't have our usual rituals. Let's really stretch ourselves to observe ground rules and to check what we're saying, when we're saying it, how we're saying it. Board member roles and responsibilities. This is straightforward, little bit dry, but legally know what it means to serve. You know what you're responsible for. Know that again, the state's entrusted you to oversee this organization, and this is your community. These organizations matter. Keep that in mind. If I leave you with one thing, I really want it to be that. And you know, leadership enhancement right now is really showing up. It's understanding. It's taking the time to understand things maybe in a different way than you had in the past. And it's really doing. And if you're unsure what to do, ask a professional at your organization. I am sure that they'd be happy to figure out a few things that you could do to expand your profile. And you know what? People say to me all the time, I only have, this limited time. What can I do to help right here? Or I can make 3 phone calls a day to say thank you. Something, all of it helps. All of it matters. And, I am not in your community, but on, behalf of the work that we all do, I just want to thank you for stepping up this year and for serving. It is an extraordinarily difficult year. Everything's different. It's not what any of you signed up for. I'm acknowledging that. I'm acknowledging that. But when you sign up, right, just like any president signs up, you sign up to oversee the organization through unforeseen circumstances or through rough waters. And that's what we've got here. And that's when leadership is really most important. And I want to take some questions. I really want to hear from you. And I want to talk about some things that you're experiencing and talk through some issues that you might have. So please feel free to, I don't know, Wendy, however you want to do it, raise a hand, put it in the chat box. I'd really love to talk to all of you. Seth, I see. Oh, I'm sorry. It's you, Wendy. You're facilitating. I'm sorry.
Well, I have 3 questions that I had that had been previously, and then we'll take other questions from the chat. Someone asked, how do we keep what is your suggestion for keeping board members engaged when you have over 20 people on a Zoom meeting?
Okay. Number 1, I would make sure that you balance your agenda, right? And I wouldn't make any agenda too long at all. These meetings, they really can't go beyond an hour. I'd rather see boards or committees meet more frequently. I know that's time as well, but you know what? I'd rather it be more frequent and less items and accomplish small tasks, one thing at a time, so that it's not just this amorphous tangle, dread, all of it. Also, you can split, you can do unconventional things right now, right? You always can, but if you feel like you need to decide with this group that you want to split it into smaller cohorts to attack certain issues and then report back to the larger group, do that. Work offline with a group and then come back together and present in that way. Trust your fellow leadership, right? Trust that they can work on their own and report back, and everybody doesn't need to be involved in everything.
Thank you. And as a follow-up to that, which you partially addressed in your answer to the previous question, someone asked, should we limit the agendas of our meetings to only what is necessary given the lower bandwidth on Zoom?
Absolutely. I always say there should never be more than 3 items on an agenda. And you can challenge me with that and say, well, we have more than 3 things to discuss. But here's what I'll tell you. You're not going to get past those 3 things. That's it. The bandwidth for regular meetings is 3 things on an agenda. So again, figure out other ways to get the work done, whether it's meeting frequency or other ways, but 3 items on an agenda.
Okay. Someone has asked, how do we keep board members engaged when they cannot physically visit the facility, such as in the case of a skilled nursing or assisted living facility?
With stories. And I think that you want to go in, you want to collect those stories, you want to take the time to have more stories. If it's sensitive, you can't do this, but we all have an iPhone. You can record messages, small videos, take pictures, walk someone through it on FaceTime. I mean, I've done that, we're doing that with something else here. It works so well. And it's so easy to take a quality video with your iPhone. I mean, use your imagination. There are any number of ways. And if there's a particular thing that this person is talking about, email me, call me, I'll help you.
Thank you. Another question, going back to when we spoke about the number of virtual events and being able to reach a broader audience and people who may otherwise not have come to physical events. How would you suggest to follow up with those attendees and keep them engaged? Maybe they are donors, maybe they weren't donors to your organization, or active participants in your organization, but are participating in the virtual events.
Oh yeah. I mean, I want to do a 6-day training on this because you can get as many people in a room, let's say that for an event, or online for a virtual event. And if your follow-up isn't good, there was no reason to have it in the first place, or maybe a tiny reason to have it in the first place. You want to really keep track of who was attending. And before this event happens, you want to work out a follow-up plan. This is a fantastic way for someone who says that they aren't comfortable fundraising to get involved and to help build the relationship, because the ask is the easy part. It's the relationship building that's hard, right? So if you had 20 people at a virtual event, I would follow up with a phone call. You know, there's the typical email, thank you so much for coming, to ask, what did you think of the event? What do you think we could do better? What would you like to see more of? You know, people want to be asked what they think, and it's a way of engaging people. Not to mention, the questions aren't fake. They're informing our process going forward. So once you've done this, that information needs to be recorded in some way, whether you have a database or even just a spreadsheet. And we're going on moves management for there. Everything needs to be looked at, tracked, relationship needs to be built. There are so many opportunities right now to build those relationships by reaching out.
Thank you so much. I think that's really important, because we can offer as many virtual programs as we want, but if we're not following up with people, then we're missing out on a great opportunity. So thank you.
Yeah, and honestly, my favorite thing to do is say, what did you think? You know, because it's just real. I really do want to know. And your best ideas come from that. Your best next ideas come from asking your community, what did you think? Or what do you think, you know, we can do a little bit better?
Great. Anyone else have a comment, a question, something you're particularly struggling with that we have about 8 more minutes with Kelly? Throw it out there.
Come on. Does anyone have anything? Are you overwhelmed? Raise your hand if you're overwhelmed by board meeting roles and responsibilities. Suzanne, did you raise your hand?
I did, but I am overwhelmed and over Zoom, but it's okay. I love it anyway. First of all, Kelly, thank you. This was just a really terrific presentation, and
thank you so much.
And very much, even just to reinforce some of the things that we might know anyway, but sometimes need to be reminded. So, and you just did it in a really beautiful, very effective, engaging way. I wanted to sort of respond to something that Felicia asked, because I did hear something recently about a community that, you know, with kids being home and doing school virtually, they're also looking for opportunities. This isn't necessarily engaging her board members, but as a way to make people who are in the nursing home or the assisted living facility feel engaged in community, feel connected. They had children. They had children either, like, you know, send messages or tell stories, you know, virtually, or write letters, or just kind of connect. And the connection of the school-age children to the people in the assisted living facility was very powerful and very supportive. So I just wanted to share that with.
So I love that you shared that, and I love that kind of innovation and thinking. And this is an example of where I'm not sure those connections really would have happened had we not had to respond to this situation, had we not had to respond to a pandemic. You know, maybe there would have been an event there, but these connections I mean, that's a really beautiful thing. And you want to see that transfer to in person when this is over, right? Can these kids maintain a relationship? And what is that? That's a whole program, right? That's a whole amazing community program when this is over. You know, this isn't just for now and everything's going to be dumped. This is how we navigate the waters to make things better. For the most part, I would say that much of what we're doing and much of what we're talking about should have been done anyway. We all should have been improving our, technology, our ability to up our revenue streams by going live online. The inertia, we couldn't. There were so many events, there were so many things to show up at. No one could really do it. And this gave us the opportunity to develop a certain aspect, right, that needs to stay in place. It needs to be a revenue stream. It needs to be a way that we showcase what we're doing and the impact that we're having on our community. And so part of me is thrilled to see this happen. I wish it didn't have to happen this way, but I'm not sure it could have happened otherwise, right? Inertia's strong.
So this is Felicia. I just wanted to respond to Susie. It's funny, we just had this conversation with our auxiliary board members the other day. My son actually had seen this on one of his Reddits or something, where a nursing facility had whiteboards and the person would put their name and what their interests were and ask for a pen pal. And so as a way to keep the auxiliary members to feel included, to feel purposeful, we thought maybe we could match up our residents with our auxiliary members and have them become pen pals and also support the postal service at the same time. So
fabulous.
Get two things with one stone. So hopefully that program will take off. But that is something we struggle with because they came, especially the auxiliary, that's what they did. They came into the facility and they took the commissary cart around and they visited with the residents and they helped with programs. And so it's hard for them not to be able to be there.
Absolutely. And from some of these virtual visits with older people, I've seen very large new gifts come in. And so we just never want to, that's not the purpose or the point, but we just never want to forget that relationship building is fundraising. For anyone who feels like I don't fundraise, guys, this is all part of community building, community support. It's the relationship that matters, right? So, there are many, many great things that come out of this type of innovation and work.
Someone asked, I think this could be our last question, how much email communication is too much?
I mean, listen, it's a lot right now, right? It's a lot. How much is too much? I can't really say, but I do feel that everybody's communication game needs to be strong. And I guess, we have to try as leadership to streamline what goes into an email so there are less emails. But as for organizational emails, this is how we're sending the message out. This is what we're doing. We're trying to use every method that we can. So I can't say how much is too much. It just sort of depends. But I hear you. Oh, I think Richard has a question. I see his hand.
Yeah, well, I'm just looking at the clock, and I want to thank you. I'm the chair of the federation that sponsored this event, and I wanted to thank you, Kelly. But more importantly, no offense to you, I want to thank the 52 other people that are here.
Me too.
Those of you that got up this morning, I hope you will all feel educated and energized as I do, and thank you for your support, and look forward to seeing most of your faces and maybe some additional faces next Wednesday morning. So.
And Richard, thank you for serving. I'm going to say that. And also everybody who's on your board, I hope that you feel supported by them and you guys are all working together. You know, you are doing a yeoman's job right now. And please, everybody, keep in mind that nothing is easy this year. So support, support, support. Don't be a barrier. If you can help it, be as productive as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I will send out the materials. I'll send Kelly's
Thank you for having me.
information. We really appreciate the interactive participation and the fact that you've all joined us, and we hope to see you all next Wednesday and wish you a great rest of your day.
Bye, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.